With his recent return at 46 years of age, legendary Filipino Manny Pacquiao has been in the news lately. He is boxing's only ever 8-weight division champion. But was he the greatest weight jumper in the history of the sport? Now, I wouldn't be covering a video if it was as clear cut as that. He definitely has a case. We're going to go through some of the greatest weight jumpers boxing has ever seen. Now, I'm just going to start off by mentioning about Pacquiao because it's quite a unique statistic in his 8-weight division conquest of the sport. But he also skipped 2 divisions in which he didn't win titles, meaning that his run from flyweight to junior middleweight was a stretch of 10 divisions. It's so phenomenal in the modern era that if Naoya Inoue wanted to emulate what Pacquiao had done, on his Hall of Fame run, let's say, Pacquiao was destroying Hall of Famers at a really alarming rate. Inoue would have to go all the way up to welterweight to emulate that run that Pacquiao achieved. He is currently the super bantamweight champion. It's unbelievable. So I'm going to start off with a man who actually almost emulated Pacquiao's run nearly a century ago. Jimmy Mlanin, who beat the greatest flyweight of his era in Pancho Villa. Pancho Villa had beaten the greatest flyweight of all time in Jimmy Wilde. Mlanin would go all the way up to welterweight, where he would beat 13 different Hall of Famers, including the legendary Tony Canzonieri, the legendary lightweight champion Benny Leonard, and Barney Ross. He holds the second most wins against Hall of Famers in history. Another fighter who is extremely impressive, who I never hear mentioned, is young Stribbling. He went from featherweight all the way up to heavyweight, where in 1931 he had the fight of the year against heavyweight champion Max Schmeling, losing a TKO in the 15th round. Stribbling would lose just 16 times across 291 fights, scoring 129 knockouts, defeating Hall of Famers like Maxie Rosenblum, one of the great light heavyweight champions. He almost crossed every division in the sport, accumulating all of those statistics. There is, of course, Harry Greb, probably not just the most fearless weight jumper, but the fearless fighter in history. Harry Greb crossed the colour line to face the toughest black fighters in an era where black fighters were outright refused title shots. He consistently fought anyone from welterweight champions to heavyweight champions, beating some of the greatest in each of those divisions ever. He beat Mickey Walker and was the only man to ever defeat Gene Tunney. When he went 45-0 in 1 year, he scored 11 different victories against Hall of Famers, varying from middleweight to heavyweight. Although he was only a middleweight champion of the world, he cleared out every heavyweight contender on the run into Jack Dempsey's title and has some of the highest numbers of victories against light heavyweight Hall of Famers. One of the more often overlooked weight jumpers is one of history's greatest fighters that we all know of, Roberto Duran. Most people really do disregard the start of his career, where he started as a featherweight, 126 pounds, and beat one of the great featherweights, Ernesto Marcel. He then cleared out the lightweight division and fought guys like Guts Ishimatsu, super featherweight champions, and Sol Manby, future light welterweight champions, before beating a prime Sugar Ray Leonard and Carlos Palomino at welterweight. He jumped to 154 pounds, where he knocked out the Hall of Fame knockout artist Pepino Cuevas and champion Davey Moore, and boxed the likes of Marvin Hagler and Iron Barkley at 38 at middleweight, where he became a champion. He would eventually move up to light heavyweight. Featherweight to light heavyweight is 9 divisions. Then you have Manny Pacquiao. To understand how phenomenal Pacquiao's weight jumping achievements are in the modern era, you have to compare it to his contemporaries in the modern era. If we look at Terence Crawford, for instance, Crawford is attempting one of the great weight jumping feats in the modern era against Canelo Alvarez, going from a start off at 135 pounds as a champion to 168 pounds, 6 weight divisions. However, if he wants to emulate the amount of weight jumped by Pacquiao, he will still have to go up to 175 pounds. Pacquiao jumped 42 pounds in his career. It is unbelievable, especially considering he was so small when he started, and those weight jumps have significantly higher impact when you are that small. And now we start getting onto the mind-boggling weight jumping feats. Mickey Walker, one of the all-time great welterweight and middleweight champions, he defeated the likes of Jack Britton at welterweight. Standing at just 5'7", he would move up to middleweight and face Harry Greb and Tiger Flowers, winning the middleweight crown. He would then move up to light heavyweight and would win the title on points in a fight where he could only win the light heavyweight title via knockout. But after this, the fearless Toy Bulldog moved up to heavyweight, defeating multiple heavyweight contenders, and took the future heavyweight champion of the world that year, Jack Sharkey, 15 rounds to a draw. Sharkey weighed 200 pounds. Later on in his career, Walker would go 8 rounds with Max Schmeling. Next up is one of the most decorated French boxers of all time, Gor Carpentier. You may know Gor Carpentier for his world heavyweight title attempt against Jack Dempsey, the first fight to draw boxing's $1 million gate, where over 90,000 people attended. But Carpentier was also the light heavyweight champion of the world. He started his career as a flyweight, so basically climbed through every single weight division in the sport as a professional. More impressively, he won European titles at bantamweight and beyond. This is a man who won titles, prestigious titles, across almost every weight division in the sport. Next up is Henry Armstrong. His achievements might not seem as mind-boggling to the modern viewer. He was a simultaneous 3-division champion, meaning he held all the belts in 3 separate divisions at the same time. But that's the equivalent of 5 divisions today, from featherweight to welterweight. He defended the welterweight belt successfully 19 times in 22 months over the 15-round era, whilst actively holding the other belts and being champion. But what's more impressive is the fact that he moved up to middleweight and slaughtered the middleweight champion. But the fight was rewarded a draw in one of boxing's worst ever robberies. So Armstrong was nearly a simultaneous 4-division champion, which in modern context would be a simultaneous 7-division champion. And in that streak, he went 59-1 with 51 knockouts, with over 10 wins against Hall of Famers. And at number 1 is Sam Langford. Langford beat the greatest lightweight the world had ever seen at 17 years of age over 15 rounds, but he missed weight for the title. The following year, as an 18-year-old, he beat the greatest welterweight the world had ever seen for the title, but they controversially scored it a draw. The next year, he moved straight from welterweight to heavyweight, and the year after that went 15 rounds with Jack Johnson at just 20. He had over 40 fights against heavyweight Hall of Famers, Harry Wills, Sam McVeigh, Joe Jeanette, and knocked all of those guys out. He beat the greatest middleweights of his era, Tiger Flowers via knockout, and Stanley Ketchel via a decision, and beat the great light heavyweight champion of his era. Across all of this, he scored 126 knockouts, had 60 fights against Hall of Famers and more against world champions, yet he was never even a world champion.